morning, afternoon, or evening. Welcome to I'm Talking Waffles. I'm your host, Ileana. So, it is officially November, and if you are in the writing community, then you know what that means. NaNoWriMo time! So, for those of you that don't know, NaNoWriMo is an acronym for National Novel Writing Month, and it's something I participate in every single year. With the pandemic, everything has been online for the most part, but now they have in-person events again, so I'm so excited. So the main goal for NaNoWriMo is to write 50,000 words in the entire month of November. You don't start before, you don't do any of that. You just start November 1st until the end of November. So we're going to talk a little bit about why you would want to do NaNoWriMo, as well as how you can win NaNoWriMo this year. So NaNoWriMo was founded in 1999, which was actually my birth year, by Chris Batty and a group of his friends in Northern California's Bay Area, and has since then become like a global phenomenon with hundreds, thousands, tons and tons of people essentially who do it every single year. So the rules go as followed. After midnight on November 1st, you begin to draft a new novel, or you can rewrite an old one, or anything like that, and the goal is to just finish it by the end of the month. Planning and outlining beforehand are allowed, and it's encouraged, and all of that good stuff. And basically the way to win is if you complete the 50,000 word challenge by 11:59 on November 30th, and anybody who wins is like a winner. So it's not like only one person can win. Anybody who completes the goal is a winner. And the kind of prizes you can win are like digital banners, certificates, discounts on a lot of writing tools, and there are also like t-shirts available that you can get. So now we know the gist of it and like the rules, why would you want to take part in such a gigantic challenge? And I think that it's pretty simple. If you've ever wanted to write a novel and you find that you can't finish it, or you get stuck halfway through, or you just kind of get writer's block and that's it. You turn off the document and that's the end of it. NaNoWriMo is basically a way to encourage you to push past all of those limits and all of those like challenges that you face. And it's also just a really good writing challenge. So if you like a challenge or you have like a goal to like actually finish a story, then that's some of the great reasons of why you'd want to do it. Some of the other like driving factors would be like it forces you to turn off your inner editor and actually work. And that's something that myself and like a bunch of other writers I've talked to struggle with the most. It's so hard to not edit your own work as you're going along. And so NaNoWriMo really forces you to just keep writing. Don't read what you wrote really. Like you can look at it, but don't edit it. That's the key. Don't edit it, because at the end of the day, you need to get those words on the paper. You don't want to be subtracting words. Another one is that when you're writing so much every single day, it's actually going to improve the way that you write. And it's a collective event as well. So it's not just like you alone in your head writing. It could be if you want, but during this event, there's like all these forums and like tips and tricks and a gigantic community of people who are as excited about your story as you are. So now we know that. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks as somebody who has been fortunate enough to win a couple of times. Number 1, find a story that you absolutely love. You want to write a book you love, not the one that you think you should write, which is a quote from Nathan Bransford, the author of Jacob Wonderbar series. And he says that if you're creating something you aren't head over heels in love with, you'll probably get to 50 pages and that's it. So make something you're proud of for a lifetime. Number 2, make sure you understand what people like to read if you're hoping to publish your novel. So you want to make sure that you're incorporating elements that are going to appeal to your target market. And this is something that editor Tom Flood has basically recommended that you do as part of your NaNoWriMo prep. And he says, make sure you read contemporary publications in your genre and age target. Then, as they say, write to your current market. Number 3, come up with strong characters. Harry Bingham, author of the crime thriller Talkin' to the Dead, wasn't especially keen on NaNoWriMo when, like, the people at the Reedsy blog, which is where I'm getting some of these quotes from, reached out to him. And he said, if you must do it, know your characters. Know them intimately. Know them better than you know your husband, your wife, your child, or your best friend. Getting to know your characters will naturally make them stronger and more familiar with you. Like, the more familiar you are with their personalities and motivations, the easier it's going to be able to write about them. What I like to do as part of my NaNoWriMo prep is I find those, like, interview questions that you would do for, like, a job, and then I interview all of my characters to really understand, like, how they would speak and how they respond to things, and really just build them out through that interview process. Which, if you're familiar with the marketing world, it's very similar to building out a persona. Number 4, write a single sentence story concept before you start. Author C.S. Lankin says novelists need a solid framework to the story. Make sure your premise is compelling enough to deserve a full-length story. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. Get that one-sentence story concept nailed first, which clearly defines the protagonist and their goal. Number 5, I would say this one is optional, but it may work for you. It doesn't really work well for me, but it may work for you, and that's consider writing a chapter-by-chapter outline. So after you've nailed down your concept, basically expand it into a chapter-by-chapter outline. Editor Shelley Snitchcomb says, once you have your idea and characters in mind, take the time to plot your story from the beginning to the end before you start writing. This allows you to know the purpose of each scene and streamlines the writing process. I am kind of I have mixed feelings on that, because I have my entire story planned out. Like, I know the beginning, I know the middle, and I know the end. And I have a couple of, like, ideas of the scenes I want to include, but I would be lying if I said that I had every single chapter planned out. I just write and kind of let the characters guide me for the most part, as long as they fall within the plans that I have for the main portions of it. And then I just go back in and when I'm done, and I just edit everything, so, like, it's all good. Number 6, research and build the world of your novel. So, according to Michael Rowley, the UK editor of Andy Weir's The Martian, he says, a lack of world building, continuity, or cause and effect are the biggest problems I encounter with NaNoWriMo manuscripts. A little planning on backstory, geography, culture, specialist knowledge, or working out the technology for a sci-fi novel can go a long way. Number 7, let your characters determine the story. So well-developed characters are a key to a strong story, and if you're struggling with your outline, your characters might be the solution. So ghostwriter Hannah Sandoval says, when you outline a character's motivations, you'll uncover what situations would cause them the most conflict. You'll learn how they react to situations and interact with each other. This can help you turn a general plot idea into a complex web of biting conflicts, high stakes, and exciting, realistic dialogue. And if you ever get stuck along your plot trajectory, you can just use character maps to fuel a new idea. So the big question that you're probably wondering, how on earth do you find time to write 1,667 words a day for a month? And here are some tips. Treat your writing time as you would with your job. So set aside a certain amount of time every single day that you need to write, and then show up and do the writing. So make sure, like, your family, your friends, maybe your roommates, anybody you may be living with, let them know that this is your writing time and you can't be disturbed. So when you create this kind of, like, boundary for this non-negotiable writing time, you'll be able to get through the month. Another thing that you can do is try writing in several shorter sprints every single day. So if you don't really have the time or anything like that to sit down for, like, an hour or two to get all those words out, maybe do it in, like, 15-minute bursts, or a couple hundred words here, a couple hundred words there, maybe eat something, go back, and just continue to, like, work at it until you hit that word count, and that's going to help you get to where you need to go. And of course, make sure you have fun when you're doing it. Like, NaNoWriMo can be really stressful at the time, especially when you get writer's block, but some of the best tips that I have from writer's block that if you do end up getting it is something as simple as, like, standing up, going for a little walk, coming back to your desk, changing your music playlist, completely skipping that scene and, like, going to a different part of your story and just, like, continuing from there. Because at the end of the day, you are trying to get words on a page. You're not trying to make it perfect. That's what editing's all about. So once you get all the words you need on the page, then you can go back, you can fix up the continuity, you can fix up the missing scenes, you can stitch everything back together. I know right now in my story, at one point I said somebody had blonde hair And then I decided I didn't want them to have blonde hair anymore, so I changed it to brown hair. And I could always like go back in the story and edit it, but that's not the point. The point is to do that at the end and not worry about it. Like there's some stuff that you're going to have to go back in and you're going to have to like tweak and make everything make sense later, but just keep going. If it doesn't make sense, that's okay. The whole point is to just finish your story and then clean it up after. Think of your first draft as like the outline of your painting, and then your editing is when you get to put the colors on the canvas. And then like oil paint, like it takes forever to dry and you can like maneuver it and make it all pretty and stuff. And that's like the longest part, is making it all beautiful. But that's just the way it goes. And I hope that makes sense. And I hope that this inspires you and kind of gives you some good tips and tricks and makes you excited to continue working on the story, because it tends to be within like the first week or the second week when people tend to drop off of the NaNoWriMo train. So I'm hoping this podcast episode comes out just in time to inspire you. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. I hope that you're having a great start to your November. My November is very strange because it's like 21 degrees when I'm recording this, and that's just like not November weather at all. It's super bizarre. So I'm like, I regret packing all of my summer clothes now, but I know that this is going to go away later and it's going to start snowing and stuff. But yeah, it's super bizarre. All 23 years of my life, it has never been this warm in November. I don't trust it. So with that, it is now time for everybody's favorite part of the show. That's right, it's the fun fact of the day. So today's fun fact is, dun da da! John Steinbeck used 300 pencils to write East of Eden and was known to use up to 60 pencils a day. Now, I don't write anything by hand really, especially not my novel, so I don't even want to know how many pencils it takes to, like if somebody was writing like a 800 word novel, I don't even know how many pencils they would use for that. I guess it depends like how hard they press too. But yeah, with that, I'm going to bid you a great rest of your morning, a great rest of your evening, a great rest of your night, a great rest of your apocalypse, and a great rest of your NaNoWriMo adventures. I hope that you're having a great time. I hope that you're enjoying writing if you are, and I will see you next Monday. Bye!